fighting over funding, we're also building. And it's my hope to have this done, completed, all 500 to 550 miles, to have it either renovated or brand new by election time. I mean, the Democrats don't want it because they don't want open borders. And yet every one of those Democrats approved the wall or a fence or very, very substantial barriers.
President Trump speaking from the Oval Office last hour on the need for a border wall and saying he doesn't know when the government will reopen. Chris Wilson is a former pollster for the Cruz campaign, the Ted Cruz campaign, and CEO of WPA Intelligence. And Zach Friend is a Democratic strategist and former spokesman for Obama for America and the author of a book On Message, How a Compelling Narrative Will Make Your Organization Succeed. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you.
So you just heard a snippet of that, but the president had quite a lot to say at the White House this morning. He said he started off talking about interest rates. He thought they had risen too fast, but that we would get that fixed. And he also talked about the need for a border wall, as you heard just there. And you heard him call it a wall, a fence, and a barrier in the same sentence. Does it make any difference to Democrats what he calls it? And Zach, let me start with you.
You know, I don't really think so. I think that one of the things that's actually interesting to point out is that the president has had the House and the Senate for the last couple of years. I think that one of his real issues isn't actually with the Democrats, but with his own party as far as support for the wall, the fence, the guard, however it is he wants to call it. And the Democrats were willing to come to a deal last year in exchange for DACA, and it was shot down. So I think that there is a deal to be worked on border security. There probably is some sort of deal to be worked that would allow the president to save face on this. I just think what it needs now is an adult in the room. I think that the only people that care about the blame game are people in Washington and not the American people. They just want the government reopened, and they want a deal to get worked out sooner than later.
Okay, well, Chris, who is the adult in the room? Someone has to step forward and move some sort of a compromise forward. It's the only way it's going to get done. So who is it?
Well, it is the only way it's going to get done, and I don't know that right now there's anybody who's got a compromise that is acceptable to both sides. I mean, really, with Donald Trump, he made his #1 commitment when he's running for office to build the wall, and I don't think he's in a situation where he can get himself out of that. You also have kind of what's going on between Congress and the White House. Well, you've really had several presidents now in a row who have expanded the regulatory state without bringing Congress into the realm there. And we all learned in elementary school that Congress is supposed to be the one that passes laws, but all they've been passing lately is just a buck. And so from that, to be able to bring them together and get out of the shutdown, and I don't know that I agree with Zach that really the American people are paying a lot of attention to it right now. It may ultimately be the case, but right now it doesn't seem to be making the top of the public consciousness. And so from that, if there's going to be a deal to be made, this is where I would agree with Zach, it's got to come from Congress. I think they've got to come forward with some way to meet him. But I don't see the president compromising on the wall at this point.
Well, and Democrats used to be in favor of some sort of a wall. They used to be in favor of border security, but now it seems like things have really changed. But let me ask you, Zach, what's wrong with border security? Why has that all of a sudden become taboo with Democrats?
You know, I don't think that it has. I think that what I agree with Chris is I think the president outlined in his campaign that there would be a wall, and that is now basically fenced him in, so to speak, in a way that he can't not negotiate out of that deal. I think that the Democrats historically have voted very strongly for border security. In fact, there have been Democrats that have voted in favor of some of that border security being a wall. At this point, though, if you draw a line in the sand and say that unless you get $5 billion, we're not going to reopen up the government, I think that we all have a problem. I totally agree with Chris, though, about the fact that there's been a remarkable abdication of responsibility from Congress really over the last decade. They fundamentally haven't passed a budget. They've been operating on continuing resolutions and stopgap measures, which really emboldens and empowers the executive branch to, in many respects, dictate how the budget will be. I think that this is the point for Congress to really step up and to re-exert their constitutional responsibility. And I think the fact that the American people actually sent a divided government back to Washington, D.C., they have an expectation they'll do exactly that.
Well, Chris, how about that? Because we have seen this president and the last president, President Obama, hand out those executive orders So when does Congress say, hey, we have a job to do too?
Well, it looks like that's kind of what they're doing right now. I mean, for them not to pass and not to agree to move forward on the stopgap measures this time is really how Congress is supposed to work. And so I believe actually the shutdown can end up being a positive thing. It pushes us back to the point to where Congress and the executive branch, Article 1 and Article 2, work in the way that the Founding Fathers originally intended. And maybe that's a positive outcome of what we're going through right now. Because if Congress does disagree with the president's priorities from a spending perspective, then they should not pass that. At the same time, if the president doesn't agree with Congress is supposed to do, that he should veto it. And so hopefully that does bring them together, back to your original question, and someone can emerge, become the adult in the room, and find a situation where they can agree on it. But getting to the premise of this, and with border security and the wall, you're exactly right. The Democrats supported the wall under President Obama in 2012. And really this has become more of a campaign issue. It's been about Donald Trump's wall than it has been about the wall itself. And I think that's the unfortunate aspect of this, is because if there was a deal to be made on DACA, I can tell you I was involved in a lot of those negotiations with some of our clients in the Senate, and I don't believe that actually was the case. Now, Zach may have information I don't, but if they, it seems to me that if there was an opportunity to make it, that would be it.
Sorry to interrupt. We're going to have to end it there. We're out of time. Thank you so much, and Merry Christmas to you guys. We'll see you again.
Merry Christmas to you.